Good afternoon and welcome to my channel and welcome back to my channel. If you have been here before, it has been a while since I've made a video, but I'm glad to be back. So after giving a little bit of background information for those who are visiting my channel for the first time, I'm going to get right into the topic of support groups. And after being involved with one for the past 5 to 7 years, I've decided to stop going to this particular one, and I'm going to tell you why. But for those of you who are new to my channel, I just wanted to let you know that I am the parent of a young adult who was diagnosed with schizophrenia about 10 years ago when my loved one was in high school. And on this channel, I've been sharing my journey, all the things that we have been going through and what we are going through now and what I hope is going to happen in the future. So as I've mentioned, I've been participating in a support group probably for about 7 years. Initially, the support group that I was going to, it was in person, and then COVID happened and the support groups moved to online. For the most part, I have found my participation in support groups to be overwhelmingly positive. If you have not participated in a support group, and this one is for the parents or relatives or even husbands and wives of someone who has a serious mental illness. If you haven't participated in a support group, I highly recommend joining one. The benefits are immediately I realized that I was not alone. In the beginning of this journey, it certainly felt that way. You will meet people who have shared similar experiences. You can share yours with them, and they, of course, share theirs with you. And I've also found a plethora of resources that I have used that have been helpful in this journey. So, and also you have somebody to talk to. You can't always talk to coworkers or even your friends and relatives who are not going through the same experience. They just don't get it. They don't understand. So, again, I've just found a wealth of information in the support group that I have participated in. So not only have I benefited from I've benefited from others from being involved in the support group, but I also enjoy sharing my experiences with other parents who are in this journey, especially if they are new to this journey. I like sharing my experience with them, and I like being a support for those individuals. I feel like, when a loved one, especially your child, is diagnosed with a serious mental illness like schizophrenia, it's kind of like a death in the family. And you go through those same stages of death. You're asking, what did I do wrong? Why me? Why my child? Why my family? Why is this going? Why us? Why are we going through this? There's denial. There's just anger. It's just a whole lot of feelings. It's just overwhelming to be in this situation. So I just felt like it's important to let other people know that there's hope, there's help out there, there's resources out there. It's just important to share my experiences with other people. So sharing my experience has been not only beneficial for other people, it's beneficial for me as well. So recently I did decide, though, to stop going to my support group, and this is why. So decades ago, just to give you a little background information, I attended Al-Anon. So Al-Anon is a group, if you're not familiar with it, but it's for family members of alcoholics. And so when I went, my children were really young, and I didn't have a babysitter. They were young to the point that one of them was actually in a stroller. The Al-Anon meeting was being held at a church. And when I went inside the church and into the room where the meeting was being held, right away I was approached by a woman who said to me, "We don't provide babysitting here." And I was caught off guard, and I said, "I never asked you to babysit my kids for me." So another woman in the group came up and she said, if you guys sit back here in the back, if you sit back here in the back with the children and they're quiet, it shouldn't be a problem for you to be here with the children. And so that's what I did. So then maybe a week or so later, I went to another meeting, but it was being held at a different church. And the reason why I went, this particular time I did have a babysitter, but I went to this other group because I didn't want to run into that first lady who had came up to me and said, "We don't have babysitting." So I went to a different church, and then lo and behold, that same woman was there. And that woman, when they were going around the room, because if you've seen support groups and how they work, like on TV or whatever, they will say stuff like, you can pass. You can tell your story. You can update the group, or you can just pass if you're not at a point yet where you are emotionally able to share what you've been going through. You can say that you want to pass. So this was like my second meeting that I'd ever been to. And that same woman was pressing me at this meeting to tell my story. And I'm actually an introvert, and I have to be prepared to speak. And I wasn't prepared, and I was not emotionally ready to tell my story. And so I didn't appreciate this woman putting me on the spot. So getting back to the group that I'm involved with right now, a lot of times I'm just giving an update. My loved one is medication compliant at this point, and so I'm not really going through. I feel bad for. I feel bad for my loved one because the medication has side effects and it makes him really tired. I feel bad because he's not living the life that he should be living as a young adult. But otherwise, we haven't had in the past 6 years any drama going on. There has not been any hospitalizations. There has not been, him getting arrested or anything like that. So everything has been pretty calm. So we have two facilitators in the group, and I'm going to call them Amy and Missy. I'm just making up these names. And there have been occasions when Amy will say something like, she'll say my name. We're doing this via Zoom, and she'll say, "You're just so calm. How do you stay so calm?" And I just find these comments kind of confusing because, first of all, you're just saying that to me. You don't say it to other people. I've never heard her say to anybody else, "Why are you so calm? You're just so calm." And it's confusing because I'm thinking, okay, how do you think I'm supposed to be acting? One, and two, as I mentioned before, my loved one is medication compliant. I'm not going through my family, my loved one, we're not going through any drama. So I don't have a reason not to be calm. And even if we were going through some type of drama, what do you want me to be doing in there? Yelling and shouting? Like what is that you're looking for? And why are you putting me on the spot by saying that? So several months ago, I ran into one of the facilitators at a well-known shopping center, and I recognized her, from the Zoom. We have never met in person. I have gone to in-person support groups, but this particular one I started going to after COVID, and it was strictly online. So I recognized her at the store, and I approached her, and I could tell she was confused, and she was trying to play it off like, "I know I should know this lady, but who is she?" And then I explained to her who I was, and she made a comment that I'm really glad that you joined this group. You really bring a lot of value to it, and I appreciated her saying that. I did. However, that was like earlier this year when I ran into her, and multiple times, not just this one facilitator, but the other facilitator, they will do stuff like like if I see somebody who is coming to the meeting for the first time and they're struggling and they say pass because they're not in a place right now where they feel they can talk about what's going on with their loved one, I will in particular speak up because I want that person to know you're not alone. And I was there. I was at a point where I couldn't talk. When I went to a support meeting, and it came time for me to speak, I couldn't even talk about my loved one without crying. Since that time, I've gotten stronger, and I just wanted that person to know that, a lot of us, we've been there, we know what you're going through, we got your back. And so I will voluntarily speak up at the support group meeting just to let these people know that you're not alone. But what I don't like is when I don't decide that on my own. When one of the facilitators will call my name specifically and say, hey, blank, why don't you share what you've been through? Why don't you share how valuable you found attending the support groups and other events and activities related to this support group have been? Again, I'm an introvert and I don't really appreciate being put on the spot. And so I went ahead and spoke anyway, but it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth that I was put on the spot. And then I've also noticed that on one or two occasions, there have been somebody who said, I want to pass. One lady showed up with her sister. Her sister specifically said, I'm her sister and I'm just here to support her. The facilitator asked the one lady who had an adult child who had been diagnosed with a mental illness. I forgot what the mental illness was. The facilitator asked her if she wanted to speak. That person said they wanted to pass. Then the facilitator asked the sister if the sister wanted to speak. And the sister said, I'm just here to support my sister. So they went on, but then, to the next person, but then the facilitator circled back and she asked the one that had the loved one with the mental illness again, a second time, if she wanted to talk. And the woman had already told her, I'm not there yet. And then she again asked the sister, and the sister said for the second time, I'm just here to support my sister. It's not my situation. It's not for me to speak on. So we're just starting to find all of this rather annoying. So the final incident for me was at the last meeting when it was my turn to speak. And I want to say maybe at the last meeting, I just said I wanted to pass. I didn't say anything. So then I felt like at this meeting, I would just go ahead and speak. And basically what I said was, there's really no issues right now. However, most of the people in the group who had been attending on a regular basis knew that my loved one is going to be going off probation. He's been on probation for 6 years following an incident. He was put on probation, and following that incident, he was told that he had to comply with whatever his therapist, doctors told him he needed to do. And so he's been doing that, which is taking a monthly shot. He's been doing that. But I just mentioned in that meeting that I am concerned because his probation is ending. It's ending this month, and I just don't know what's going to happen if he's going to decide to stay on the medication. He has told me that he was going to, but typically he has been on probation before that incident, and he would be medication compliant for the extent of that probation, which was usually a year or less. And then the second he was no longer on probation, then off the medication he went. And so I said I was concerned that that may happen this time. And then I also mentioned, the thing about the medication is that, he just sleeps a lot. He sleeps a lot, and sometimes his sleep is off, and so he will sleep during the day, and then he'll be wide awake at night when everybody else is winding winding down, then he is starting his day. So when I mentioned that he sleeps all the time, one of the facilitators right on cue jumps in and starts talking about, oh, I feel so sorry for you. He shouldn't be sleeping all the time. That happened to my daughter too, and I think he's depressed. He's depressed. Your son is depressed. And she just started diagnosing my loved one based on whatever had happened with her daughter, and she said she had to change her medication, and she just started talking about how sorry she felt for me. And I felt like, not only was she putting me on the spot, but she was diagnosing my son based on her experience. And I also felt like she was I didn't want her self-pity. I felt like she was victimizing me in front of the group. And I really, when that meeting ended, I didn't feel good. I didn't feel good about what had just happened. And so I decided that night that I would not be returning to the group. So I guess I'm saying all this to say, if you're in a support group, and maybe I should go back, and maybe I've never met, this is not in person, so I don't have a chance to pull her off to the side and say something to her about what she's doing. But I'm saying all this to say, if you're in a part of a support group, and particularly if you are a facilitator in a support group, just keep things like this in mind. Keep it in mind, that you should be professional, and there's certain protocol that you should follow when you in a support group. If somebody says they want to pass, if they're not emotionally ready to speak on their issue and they want to pass, let them pass. That's how it's supposed to work. And also, you shouldn't be diagnosing other people based on your experience. And that's whether you're in a support group or not. So, with that in mind, just keep that in mind if you're facilitating or in a support group. That's going to be it for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all on the next video. In the meanwhile, take care and please be safe.